By the time the warlock noticed the signs of collapse, it was all already too late. With ghostly footsteps, the warlock and their own mansion walked. The frozen mass of air underfoot broke with a clatter, and a chill breeze tickled their nape. His neck drew away from it, and immediately an odd physiological reaction to that unpleasant cold was felt. Nowadays, applying makeup to his face and choosing clothing had both been left to Frederica. That diligent and enthusiastic girl was, no matter how, trying to pay back the grace she had received from this place. But it was too late. His heart, that should not have felt anything, ached a little. The path to Roswell's dearest wish had, at some point, been severed. Rem. Maybe it had been triggered by the loss of the Oni sisters. The existence of those two was a key part in the path toward Roswell's utmost wish. With them having vanished, Roswell had been left alone. 400 years later, upon realizing the road to his long-held hope had been broken, Roswell could no longer stand on his own. Rem. A short, mumbled name. It was the name that conveyed the biggest regret. The possibility that it would become like this. He had already considered it previously. Quite the opposite. The likelihood that it would end badly like this was much higher. It was because of this that Roswell had taken insurance on his own existence. When his end finally arrived, he wanted someone there that could receive it happily. Her, dying before him, had ruined the last remaining cogwheel in his plans. So then, it was strange for Roswell to find himself wandering through the frozen mansion. He had lost his reason to stand already, and his reason for walking was already gone from him. Master, please return yourself to how you were before, so the two of them... Many times, Frederica had so appealed to Roswell. With Roswell falling into despair, his spirit weakened. Frederica had taken up the task of patiently and devotedly uplifting her pathetic master. Henceforth, the power to walk in this now frozen mansion remained in him. Henceforth, in the middle of the hallway he was wandering in aimlessly, his sight now turned to the scenery beyond the window. Henceforth, he saw that frozen world of white in the form of the blonde-haired girl attempting to resist it. He perhaps thought that to not protect her here would not do. Or it could simply be acting on reflex. He did not know. Enough remained of his mind and the body of him to decide on reflex that he must do so. So now Roswell slowly spread his arms wide, readying himself to pour out a vast amount of mana. At that moment, Roswell barely avoided the bright flash of a blade targeting its neck. Oh my, to be able to dodge this is outside my expectations. Perhaps the head magician of the court isn't only skilled in magic, but is someone holding some level of skill in martial arts as well. From behind Roswell's back called out a light voice. His Zori, attaining speed that could scorch the frozen corridor as they glided through it. It was the voice of a young man sporting dark blue hair. That movement just now, it wasn't something someone can just do on the fly. I'm honestly impressed. That terribly out-of-place person was clad in a blue kimono, wearing Zori on his feet, and had two swords strapped to his waist. One of those had been unsheathed, and he was now tapping his shoulder with it. A face with a neat appearance, donning a well-fitting smile. The bright eyes that give a striking impression of a young mischievous child, and the long hair tied up, both somehow offered him an androgynous look. But from him emanated an apparent yet transparent fighting aura. Just by being bathed in that ghastly gaze, visions of myriad deaths from a sword's surface, so that anyone would be rendered unable to make rational comments. If you're a person more confident in more than just magic, my heart's relieved of a burden. It really is a great help. After all, something that's so one-sided doesn't fit my sense of aesthetics. No, I'd do it if told to do so, but I want to avoid getting the villain treatment if possible. Like in the rumors, you're quite talkative. Oh, a rumor about me? It can't be helped. Am I a celebrity, even in such a place? I wish it wasn't such a strange rumor, though. The young man fluently spoke as he scratched his head with a shy smile. While looking at the scene, Roswell reignited his sluggish thoughts to stir again, as to solve the situation he had found himself in. What played a part in that blaze was the burning sensation at his left arm. By the way, if you don't do anything about your arm soon, won't you die of blood loss? Your advice. I'm grateful for it. With that argument made by the young lad, Roswell loosened his lips, lost of the color of blood. That Roswell's left arm had been amputated near the shoulder, and what had used to be attached there was almost unrealistically rolling on the floor, like the limb of a doll. Alongside the first strike to his neck that had been dodged, his arm had been lopped off. After hearing this advice to act, Roswell grasped his wound, and an instant burst of fire directly stopped the bleeding. Horrible pangs of pain tore through his brain, but with rigid cheeks he bore it. At that, his extreme emergency treatment, the young man's eyes widened ever so slightly. I'd imagine that mages be far more timid. Anya's like that. Oh, by the way, Anya's someone I'm acquainted with. I know, Cecilus Segment-kun. The most powerful warrior of the Volikan Empire. Topped rank among the 9 divine generals, correct? Being given the rank of first general, the name of the Blue Lightning is famous even in Lagunica. Oh, that's the biggest of honors. At Roswell's low voice, the young man, Cecilus Segment, responded with an elegant bow. There was no reason to hide his identity. There was no reason to hide his name in the first place, so he might as well act coolly, dignified, and confident. Watching those mannerly ways with their dramatic productions, Roswell sighed. But that aside, what's happening now, I wonder? It couldn't be. At this time, when the new monarch of the kingdom of Lagunica is being decided, the Vulcanian Empire is moving in violation of the treaty? Oh, that's a misunderstanding. Right now, you could say I'm on break from being a part of the 9 divine generals. Or you could say I'm unemployed. Anyways, this business has nothing to do with the Empire. Now, I am professed as the strongest ordinary, vagrant swordsman. This is no poor joke. My actions, the Empire is not involved in them at all. Of course, loyalty to His Excellency still lies in my heart, but I got my reasons for doing what I do. With a grand gesture, Cecilus emphasized that he and the Empire were not working together. It was difficult to believe it unconditionally. It was fact the plans of the Empire were incomprehensible. For this reason, Roswell narrowed both his dual-colored eyes and inquired of Cecilus. Then it's even more curious that you've even abandoned your position of general at the Empire and come here. What exactly is it that can move you to such extent, I wonder? It's easy to understand. A step in the path toward the heavenly sword was promised. path toward the heavenly sword? At that reply, Roswell frowned his handsome brows. Cecilus, witnessing that, nodded deeply in reply, and a murmur. Yes. The expression was just as if he was smiling, but a critical difference lay in the emotion of the pupils. With human emotions like that of joy and pleasure, the blue lightning severed human lives. However, what lurked in the eyes of Okanya's strongest at this instant was not joy and pleasure, but a deeper hue, a more fervent hue. It's the most important wish I've never spoken of to any living person. Someone guessed it correctly, and went on to say they could assist with it. There wasn't any choice but to accept that opportunity. How unexpected. You don't seem to be the type to be another's puppet. Between being controlled by others and merely accepting the stage provided by fate, isn't there a subjective difference between the two? I accept the role of this world's star actor, the leading part on its script. Beyond that, it's part of an actor's skill set to ad-lib lines and performances. Isn't it so? Cecilus shrugged, the emotions in his eyes returning to their previous state, and Roswell simply nodded. Indeed, at the strength of his argument, he gave up fighting against it. Might makes right was the philosophy Cecilus had built up over many victories. To forcefully bend that notion was impossible for Roswell, who had lived 400 years for an obsession of his own. For Roswell, who preferred stagnation, that philosophy seemed attractive to him, too. I don't hate you. Rather, I quite like you. But because this is also my role, head magician of the court of the kingdom of Lagunica, Roswell L. Mathers, I will be taking that head of yours. Seemingly acting in his own breed of politeness, Cecilus returned the sword he held to its sheath, and with the sound of another blade being drawn, the blade of a beautiful sword was revealed to the world. The beauty of the sword was truly arcane, a magic sword imbued with uncanny power. Ranked highest among the blades, the dream sword, Masayume. The sword that eats away at the holder's soul with one swing, is it? Cecilus Kuhn, may I ask one thing? With the overflowing dreadfulness in front of him, Roswell, with a carefree tone, raised a finger. One-armed and bloodied, faced with the swordsman without peer in all epochs among the congealed atmosphere. Yet, in such a situation, he raised a query toward Cecilus. The latter again tilted his head, at that out-of-place light, hardened toned. What are my weaknesses? My weak points are that I don't listen to people, and I don't really have the composure of someone over 20 years of age. Oftentimes, that end up in the agenda of the Imperial Parliament. Your employer's name is? After that question was posed, Cecilus's eyebrows raised slightly. He lowered the blade while drawing a foot back. Slowly, he leaned his upper body forward. Gossip around has them down as a wretch, a fiend, and I've even heard some speaking ill in their back, calling them the Purge King. But to you, because I've been asked to communicate the correct name to you. With that, as the preface, Cecilus wet his lips with his tongue. After a dramatic pause, he revealed. With that name, as an expression of power reaching his ears, Cecilus disappeared, crackling the floor of the mansion. That he had vanished from the world was fast enough to mistake for that. On that moment, The moniker of Blue Lightning truly befitted the man, approaching like a bolt of electricity. The distance was crossed instantaneously. However, at the same instant, Roswell weakly parted his lips, muttering, "So it was you, after all." Even before the sound of those words appeared in the world, the dream sword drew an arc. Just before everything went dark, Roswell's consciousness thought about those girls currently in the mansion and their safety. About those girls who had become collateral damage in the path to his dearest wish, and had ultimately been left with no happiness at all. He did not possess either the qualifications nor the time to apologize in those final moments, and so anything and everything